blood-sucking vampire bats. Generally, those words inspire fear and horror. However, in reality, the common vampire bat, Desmodus rotundus, is a social animal which share grooming and feeding. Females come back to the roost after hunting the blood of livestock and regurgitate some of their food to other females. Foraging can go unsuccessfully, and bats must depend on others to avoid starvation. So the decision of who to share food with is critical. Female bats have two options. One of the options is for female bats to participate in a behavior known as social bet-hedging. In this behavioral strategy, bats share foods with many other bats with whom they are less related to. Bet-hedging is like sharing food with everyone in the apartment complex. The second option for bats is to share food with only kins, or strongly related relatives. This second option is more like sharing food only within your home with your nuclear family. We read a study in the journal Biology Letters that describes these choices, so the purpose of the experiment is to understand if bet-hedging is present in vampire bats and how it affects their fitness. Based on the discovery above, we have reasons to believe that female vampire bats will do something to ensure their survival and increase their fitness, which in biology terms refers to the ability to have fertile offspring. Thus, the hypothesis of the experiment is that to compensate for the risk of losing food, a social bet-hedging female would foster new bonds by diverting some of her social time and energy away from mothers and daughters and towards other females. Carter's team got around 27 to 34 bats from different zoos. He then figured out the key donors for each of these bats. The key donor for a bat meant that it gave a lot of blood to it, and usually it was a relative. The control experiment was performed by removing a bat and fasting it for 24 hours. Before reintroducing, a non-donor bat was removed. The fasted bat was reintroduced. For the experimental group, instead of removing a non-donor bat, a key donor was removed before reintroduction. So what did the experimenters find out? Graph 1 shows the results when a non-donor bat was removed. The x-axis on the graph represents how close pass sharing between the fasted bats and bats that donated to it. The y-axis shows the average food the bat received. The data on graph 1 shows that the fasted bat did not receive a lot of food from non-kin bats, and on average they donated less food. Graph 2 shows what happened when the key donor was removed. After the key donor was removed, the fasted bat received more food from non-kin with whom they donated food to previously. So, from the observations and calculations presented in the experiment, we conclude that the results support the social bet-hedging hypothesis. When you first hear about social bet-hedging, it really doesn't make sense because vampire bats who feed more and more non-relatives and make relationships with them don't get fed more when they're hungry. So why even put the time and energy into making friends with non-kin? Well, it's because sharing only with kin could be risky because relatives can be lost for various reasons. Basically, increasing their sharing networks allow them to live a proper lifestyle, further proving that it is more beneficial for bats to have a greater number of weak social ties than a few strong bonds. A common way to understand this behavior is to understand the cost and benefit of it in a biological sense. The cost for bats giving blood to non-kin is that less food is available to their kin and themselves. The benefit from doing so is that bats are able to get enough food from non-kins when their kin females are lost for various reasons. So what does this mean for other species? This concept of social bet-hedging not only applies to vampire bats, but also female baboons, who increase their social grooming rates so that it can help them deal with the loss of a close female relative. Humans tend to prefer quality relationships, but having a large number of weaker friendships has its benefits in certain places as well.